Hi, good morning, Western Michigan PMI. Today we are going to be talking about how is everyone managing to work from home. This is a lean coffee meeting discussion, so everybody is welcome to participate. We can try to run it how we did that previously in person meeting. So if you want to put in chat a topic that you would like to discuss, I'm going to write it down on the whiteboard, and after I give you a few minutes, and then we can vote on which topic we would like to cover. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about which topic would you like to discuss. So just put it in a chat window. So how many of you actually worked from home before? So you guys had the routine already set up, and you can put it in a chat, or you can unmute yourself if you want to speak, or if you want to raise your hand, whoever is on the video. So I can raise my hand. I was working from home for about 9 years. So people think, oh, it's the same thing right now. We have had, you had to work before, now you have to work from home, another situation change, but there is a situation change. Okay, so it looks like about 80%, 1 day a week, many years, 3 years now. Okay, so a lot of people that have been working from home already. Perfect. So what do you think? So creative way to keep employee engagement high. So did you guys have an issue before or in trying to keep the engagement high? And are you talking about your employees, or are you talking about yourself being an employee and you're trying to figure out for yourself how to keep you engaged? What are the ways that would work? So are you able, guys, to talk as, you guys have to unmute yourself if you want to talk. So can you talk about both angles? So when you are a manager and you want to motivate, engage your employees, what have you found to be working for you? And if you yourself are an employee that works from home, how can you keep your own engagement?
So I can give for keeping myself engaged. I tend to have ADHD and want to ignore everybody who's talking. So what I found is if you have OneNote or any type of note-taking software open, and if you have two screens, it's a lot easier. But if you have one screen, you can minimize it kind of to the bottom corner. Just take notes as you listen to the people speak, and it'll help you stay engaged. That's one of the key items I found to try to, because otherwise what happens is they eventually get around and ask you a question and you didn't hear the question, so you always have to have something to repeat it, and it's not good.
That is true, and that happened even before we all had to be forced in working from home. Don't you think, Stephen? When you are on a conference call and you ask a question and then you have to repeat it, and then you have to repeat it, and then could you repeat that, because I was distracted. So
and it's not fair to the group either that's listening. So it's very important that you do something to keep yourself engaged.
Okay. So one person said we didn't do video chats as much before, but now leadership is pushing for more video chats, including a weekly video coffee break to just talk. So I do find that it's not really with my work, because I think everybody was used to, my whole team is working remotely. So I think we are used to working from home. So the funny part is, prior to COVID, we were forced to be on the video. Now it's a little more lenient, because you do understand, sometimes the kid could cry, or the dog might jump on you or a cat on the desk. So it's always funny to hear that. So I think for us, it actually switched. But I do hear more and more that employers find a video chat to be a way of checking on the employee. Have you found that as well? And does this keep your engagement high when you know you have to be on a video while you are presenting or being part of the meeting, or does it really discourage you?
Hi, Kinga. This is Jill. We had zero experience working remote. We just didn't do a lot of remote working experience, and so I think it depends a little bit on your culture. Our culture is a very engaged, collaborative culture, so this was a big shift for us. So I think it was more from a cultural perspective. The video is a huge help for us to feel connected and stay engaged. So I don't feel like that has to do with like being checked in on. I think it's a really healthy way for our engagement and for our people to still feel very connected. But we were a highly connected on-site collaborative team before. So that was more, our experience was less about having to have the video chat on, but everybody kind of wants it and is more engaged in that capacity there.
I can give one hint for that one as well. If you're on a meeting that has, for example, if you're on a meeting where it's you and a customer, if you could just let somebody else in your group with an instant message or something and just say, hey, I got to step away for 5 minutes. Maybe you have to go use the facilities or whatever it is. If you just tell somebody else from your organization, just, hey, I got to step away for 5 minutes. That way, if it does come around to you and somebody asks a question, they can say, hey, Steve he'll be back, but he had to step away or whatnot. So that's always a thing. And, or if you're on a conference call that's internal, if it's your boss, because a lot of times they're the ones who are going to set these up, just let them know, hey, I got to step away for about 3-4 minutes. I'll be right back. And if you do that in a text, like if your company has instant messaging, if you just send a quick, instant message to your boss, or even if it's just the person who's running the meeting or whatnot, that can help. Because in real life, you might have to step out of a meeting too. So it does happen.
And I have also found, this is Marcia, I've also found that if you know that you have to be leave early, come to a meeting, then it's always good right at the beginning of the meeting to let the facilitator know, hey, I'm going to have to step away 15 minutes early for whatever reason, or hey, I have to step away half an hour into this meeting. If you know that ahead of time, I think it's good to just communicate that right away, in addition to the other comments, which are great too.
Sure.
Yeah, and in line with what you just said too, if you are going to leave a meeting early, you should at least let them know too, rather than just log off, because again, they may have a question for you or assume you're still there.
I think for those of us that this is new to, it's been really helpful for our leadership to let us know that, there has to be some space for being able to walk away for a minute, and that being okay, and that maybe our working hours change a little bit. And so long as we're communicating that with our teams and that there's awareness of it, that, we can't be expected to sit in the same spot for 9 hours a day or 10 hours a day, whatever it is, because we're not in the same environment. Like, for those of us who used to be in an office, there was, the random conversation that happened, or, walking into the kitchen and taking 5 to 10 minutes away from your desk. And those are all still things you can do. And home is just different. And especially for those of us with kids, and we're trying to do homeschooling and other things that we didn't have in the mix before. And so I feel like it's been really helpful to have leadership be supportive and that they acknowledge that this is different and we all need to be okay with that. And it's not, the expectation is not that you are sitting in a seat for many, many hours at a time being constantly available. Like, you have to be able to set those boundaries to maintain your own sanity and health, and that will ultimately make you a better supporter of your broader team. So, yeah, it's just different.
Okay. Does anybody have a problem at work, like you cannot get away, you because I don't know. So if you do, don't say your name. If your boss is, no, you have to be constantly, and they penalize you per se if you step away, or is it really a very forgiving environment right now? What have you guys found?
Well, this is Doug.
Doug, you have to speak up. We can't hear you.
This is Doug McNeil. Just because of the nature of the work that I'm doing in support of some of our efforts, being on call has been tough. Where we get data needs or changes in information that we have to produce, at 9:30 at night, as well as 9 o'clock in the morning. So that's been a difficult situation for me to be able to balance that and try to keep some sort of normalcy without feeling guilty of stepping away for a while. Some of that's just the nature of the work that I'm doing right now.
Sure, and I think working from home gives you more flexibility, because how I feel, as long as you get your work done, if you take an hour for lunch or hour and a half, but then the next day you're working longer, you start earlier, to me, it shouldn't be the end of the world. So if my employee, as long as they tell me, hey, I need a 2-hour break between 1 and 3, I know if they are slacking overall, or if they are always on time, always delivering stuff on time. Go ahead, take the 3-hour break or 2-hour break during the day. Like, I wouldn't see this as being an issue. What do you guys think?
No, I don't see that as an issue at all.
Yeah, I don't see that as an issue either.
Because so something from my team, I wanted just to share is I'm a software IT project manager. I work for a software company, and I'm in professional services. So my team is all remote 100% of the time, unless we are at the customer. And right as this COVID started, our whole team is used to working from home, but as this COVID started, we also started our cutover activities for this project. That's a multi-million-dollar project that's been 1.5 years in progress. And the whole company, our customer, as well as my software team, has now been remote during this time. The hardest thing was to set the expectations for this as we're performing the cutover activities, going through Go Live and in the initial support of post Go Live hypercare, which has been a tremendous amount of work where the teams have been working 14 hours a day, at least. So part of that is trying to set the expectations and manage your time, knowing you have this extremely sensitive workload that needs to be performed, but also during these times, normally your family is used to you not being at home because they've been through these projects and they understand how it works. But now that you're home, they don't understand because you're at the customer. So setting the expectations, both from a work expectation, saying, hey team, I need a couple hours off because I need to visit my family, I need to eat dinner, I need to have a couple things around home I need to take care of, but also setting expectations with your family, stating, hey, listen, I have calls that are going to be going. I can't make dinner tonight or start dinner, or I won't be there because normally when you're on site at a customer, you don't have to worry about that. So making sure you upfront set the expectations both at home and at work with your colleagues is very important, especially for somebody in my line.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else? that would like to add to it? And just reminder to unmute yourself. Okay, so just to break up before we go to number 3, do we have anybody that's new to Western Michigan PMI? Do we have any new members? If you want to put in a chat your name, we'll do a big shout out. Any new members if you want to speak up, or just put anything in the chat window? Okay. And then do we have anyone that just passed the PMP or CAMP or ACP or any certification just recently? Either unmute yourself and shout it out, or you can put it in a chat window. Okay. Not today, but you guys saw a big list of people that just joined and did the certification. So if you guys know them, help us say congratulations and welcome. So I believe Sean was saying about the availability, you know, let them know when you will be away. If you can work from, 6 to 3 p.m. because that's how works for your family, let your boss know about that. If you prefer to work in the evenings, which I know might be a little bit harder, if you don't have any meetings throughout the day, I think you are able to switch to like a shift 2 that probably you would not be able to do when you were working at the office. But if you do have lots of meetings, like sometimes I have a back-to-back, for me, it wouldn't be possible to really start my work like at 11 because I have a lot of meetings, 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. What do you guys think? What are about setting expectations on your availability and the communication preference?
I know that for my team, communication preference in particular, when we started all working from home, and we work from home periodically anyway, but when everybody's working from home, including folks, business side folks that would be contacting us in IT, as well as IT folks, that I, talked about, communication preferences of, reaching out using instant messenger, using soft phone tools like Cisco, Jabber soft phone, and ways to be able to still connect as if you're in the office. So that way the business can reach you in a timely fashion. And I know that I also talked with them about making sure that they indicate in their instant messenger tool, we use Jabber, that if you're available, but if you're not available, are you at lunch? Will you be back in an hour or 2 hours? And so that way people know immediately if they can reach them or if they have to reach them at a later time.
Okay. How about others? So for me, what I found is I do work with salespeople, and I know their ability to meet off-site is a little more limited of what they did before. So it was that sometimes you would not be able to expect a person to be. The only problem that I was finding is they didn't put it on their calendar. So I was trying to schedule meetings, they were showing available, and then when I was trying to book something, they said, "Oh, I'm traveling. Oh, I will be on a plane at this time." So I felt like, okay, so why didn't you put it on your calendar? Because the calendar, like a team calendar, was the best way for me to get a hold of somebody and knowing, are they in, are they out, are they at the external meeting? And you could put busy or you can put out of the office. I believe now we even have an option to put yourself, it's through Skype, on working remotely or working away. So let's say if we do have a sales team that they had a meeting on the offsite location, they could set up their link saying, I'm working remotely. So I knew that they might have a limited availability to get a hold of them. Have you found that at your work that, people are showing available, but you cannot get a hold of them? Or other stuff, sometimes it's so hard because certain people block their calendar for from 8 to 6 p.m. the whole working week. And you know that they are not really in meetings for 9 hours a day. So how do you go around it and say, how can you unblock your calendar so I can see your availability? Sometimes I just email them or link them and say, hey, are you available at this and this time? Because I see it blocked on your calendar, but are you really in a meeting or not? So to me, the expectations on availability is make sure your calendar is always updated, because it just helps everybody in setting up the calls. Because what I'm finding too is that I block my calendar for stuff that I'm really, really busy, but I so often get meetings scheduled at my time that I'm showing busy. And it's frustrating because it's I have a calendar, I keep the calendar updated for a reason, but I think because so many people don't, that others just schedule meetings hoping that, maybe you just blocked it, but you are really free. What do you guys think?
I think that meeting scheduling etiquette should be something that everybody needs to learn. Learning to use the tools, like whether it's Outlook or whatever tool that you might use appropriately, and it's kind of like email etiquette, but scheduling meetings, calendar availability. That's all part of really being mindful of others as well as yourself, so that way you can foster better team collaboration. So I'm big on that.
So speaking from a standpoint of somebody who's constantly doing meetings with outside customers, you can't see their schedule to do this. And specifically, if your customer's the one setting meetings, or you have to set meetings with vendors, the meeting invite is not going to allow you to use Schedule Assistant to do all of that. So what we found as an organization is basically, well, as the PM, first of all, I'm always double or triple booked sometimes. So I accept every meeting. So one, I don't forget, or don't have it on my calendar. And then what we do is, if I'm scheduling a meeting as well, I will use scheduling assistants internally. But sometimes, I have an engineer from mechanical, electrical, controls. I have installers. I have other people that have to join. So you can't cater to one or two people's being unavailable a lot of times as well. So what we do is basically, if you're the PM, you schedule the meeting when it's most convenient for as much of your team as you can. And you expect people to, if they accept the invite, you expect them to come. If they don't accept the invite, they could turn it down. And that way, if they turn it down, you can always look at those people and try to find an alternative or somebody else to represent them in that meeting. That's what we found.
Yeah, that's really good. Anybody else?
I think too, though, to help set expectations with your own team, I am very mindful about people's calendars, and thankfully, for immediate team members and even leaders, some of them make their appointments visible to you, so you know that if it's they've blocked time to be working or what have you. And I try to honor that, because the reality is we have more meetings now, And we also need time to work. Like that was one of the comments that I put in the chat, is just that it feels like there is less downtime to actually do work. So I feel like in your situation, you were mentioning at the beginning, like, decline meetings if they're putting them on your calendar when they're blocked, and let them know this is time that I've reserved for this. And if you absolutely need me at that meeting, we'll have to adjust the time. Because I think if you continue to allow people to just put meetings over the time you're already blocked, you've created a pattern of behavior, and it won't be something you can change in the future. I do try to prioritize if we're setting up meetings with external vendors, the time slots that they've offered. And if there's a team member that I absolutely have to have at that meeting, I'll make sure that their block on their calendar is in fact a block. And then we'll just have to find another time to meet. And it's just, you have to honor people's schedules in that way.
Sometimes you can't when you have multiple vendors. So you might have 15 different vendors.
I absolutely understand that. I think it's just in general being thoughtful of other people's schedules. I'm just saying, as a standard, that's how I would approach it. But yeah, I totally get when there are multiple vendors. I've been in that scenario a number of times, and I know it's painful to also get meetings on calendar.
But but yeah, I do agree with the general statement that you're making. It's certainly best, and especially if you could even, sometimes I will reach out to a specific company too and ask them, we'll provide them, if you can look at your own company's internal times, you can also offer those up as, say, hey, do you have are you able to meet on this day, or this day between, and you give them a wide range of choices. So if anybody ever runs across that, you can always send to that external source, for example, the openings that you do have available, and hopefully they can match you.
One of the tricks that I use, and I'm pretty lucky to be able to do this, is especially with the folks that I work most consistently with, if we have scheduling issues, we'll send a text message to one another on our personal cell phones to say, hey, I know you've got this on your calendar. I really need 5 minutes with you, or I need to bounce this off you. And having the relationship within the group really helps, being able to say, okay, can you squeeze me 5 minutes if I need it? That makes a big difference.
Yeah, so texting someone to ask about availability, hey, can you squeeze me in for 5 minutes, or I really need you on this call, can you step in? That would be good. Yes, definitely. And I believe one person was talking about that she always schedules the meetings to end 15 minutes, or she has 15 minutes before each meeting. I think that is pretty big. I have not been able to do that yet. It feels like even though I schedule for 45 minutes, we always run over time. So I'm scrambling and being late to another meeting. But how does it work for you guys? Are you able to schedule 45-minute meetings instead of an hour?
Yes, we do that, but also I think it's the PMs or the meeting, the person who's the moderator of the meeting, the person who is in charge of it, to let people know, hey, we have 5 minutes, we need to wrap up. So if you're the person that's presenting the meeting, especially with a group of people remotely, it's your job really to make sure the meeting closes on time. Don't forget that.
Cool. I have a question with the communication preferences. I heard lately on the radio station that you are not really, it's a faux pas. If you call someone on the phone out of the blue, you're supposed to give them a heads up, like you're supposed to text them before you call them. And sometimes I prefer to just pick up the phone and talk with somebody. And apparently now it's not a good thing to do. So are you finding at work, like, are you still able just to call someone and talk to them? How often do they answer? And is this all really texting and emailing right now?
I know I said a lot, but I actually love that question because I'm interested in that because I'm 45, and so a lot of times we find a direct call helps get things done. You know, I've always found that, but maybe with some of the newer employees and stuff, maybe they don't find that as well. But so at least for the people I deal with, a lot of times a direct call is preferable because you can get a lot more done in a 2-minute conversation sometimes than you can over email, etc. But I am interested in what everybody else has to say on that one.
I think for Sean, for us and my team and my projects for sure, either I will quick instant message at times, and at times I'll send a quick text and say, got a second? And then I will call just out of courtesy because I know maybe we're all doing something, especially back-to-back meetings as of late, to make sure that I can, it's a good time to call because I don't want to call them while they're on another call. However, if it's vital, I will call and they will know that if I'm calling out of the blue, that it's definitely going to be important. And I make sure that if I am calling out of the blue without a pre-warning, that it is something that's important, just to make sure, because I don't know what they may have going on. I mean, at a general sense I do, but they may have something going on with their family, or they may have something, very important that they're working on at work. And then if you're working with developers, you don't normally just bother them while they're into something.
Got it. Someone told me a joke yesterday. I think it was a man. He said that an employer asked employee, hey, I just called you. Why didn't you answer? And the employee said, why didn't you answer? Your wife answered and said that you are doing the dishes. Why didn't you call me back? And then employee said, I did call you, sir, but your wife answered and said that you are folding the laundry. Now you have a computer 24 hours, 7 days a week. How do you stop working? Because we all know the work will always be there. Like no matter how much you work in a day, you can't get away from it. There is always something, one more email you have to send, one more message, one more presentation. How do you quit working in the evening? Anybody brave enough?
I walk away if I have to, and I put my phone somewhere. Don't even have it. And then ignore everything else if I can. But that's about the best way to do it.
Okay. I wonder, what do you guys think? If you set expectations, I work from 8 to 5. So at 5 o'clock, no matter, if you are in IT, you have a release. So if you are on call, I think that's something different. But do you think it's realistic right now to set an expectation? I work from 8 to 5. So 5 p.m. you shut down your computer, you shut down your work phone, and you do your stuff. And whatever is left to do, you come back in the morning at 8 a.m. and you work through whatever issue came up after you shut down the computer. Are you guys able to do that? Because I think that would be a really good, work-life balance to set expectation up front. I work until 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. If you start at 10, you finish at 6 or 7, or however that works for you. If you start at 7 in the morning, maybe you set expectation you finish at 4, and then you just shut down your computer. Because if you were working from the office and those were your hours, you wouldn't be staying. Very rarely you'd be staying after hours. You would leave at 4. How realistic is it for you to say, I want to keep the same schedule when I work in the office and just leave at 4 or 5 o'clock, meaning shut down your computer?
Honestly, I think every employee can do that. The only trouble you have, for example, as a PM, they do pay for my phone. So if I were to get a call from a customer or something like we had a sprinkler head bust, and so they had to fix it, right? So as a PM, I know that's my job. But our engineers and stuff, people need to remember an email or an IM. It doesn't mean you get it. It means you can send a message instantly. It doesn't mean you get an instant response back. And it's important for PMs to remember that as well, that these people are not working. They do not have to answer you instantly. And if it's after normal business hours, you shouldn't expect a response until the following day. Unless, to your point, if you're a support caller, obviously that doesn't hold. But even those people have a specific time typically. As your support people work from X to X, and then somebody else usually will cover for them. So it's important to remember that for your people who report to you, but also for yourself. Unless it's an extraordinary circumstance or somebody reaches out to you, and it's okay as a PM too. If somebody reaches out to you continually and you've told, at some point in time to say, look, that could have waited till tomorrow. It was not a fire that needed to be put out. I have enough things to deal with. Please don't call me during after hours.
Okay. And I think because I've always, my whole life, I was working from the office. So of course you had to get dressed, you put in makeup. So since I started working from home, I do the same. So as, one of the speakers put in the window, pretend you are still working from the office. So get dressed, put some makeup, go and work whatever hours you were working. So 8 to 5. And then it's like leaving the office. It could be your office space, wherever you set it up. And I think that's a good advice. So thank you for that. And I think one other mentioned that I had a reoccurring after-hour things that forced me to shut down earlier, like kid dance class, etc. They left those on their calendar, so now they are able to shut down earlier because it's still blocked on their calendar. Awesome. So I think it's not something new that you suddenly disappear. You kind of set expectations before that your Monday, Wednesdays are your, leaving home earlier days, and they are allowed you to continue that. So that's pretty cool. And spring break plans. My goal was to organize next week's calendar so I could get a PTO day to do a hobby. That's a great idea. Or maybe taking, instead of full day off, maybe like 2 half day off. So you can, spend more relaxed time with the kids or do a hobby or something like that. Maybe you've had an office, or maybe, your office was your guest room, or you've worked, like now you're I've seen people working from the kitchen, working from the dining room as their temporary offices. I think it's really important to set a space that's just for you during the day, that you do not have a lot of interactions or maybe foot traffic. So maybe kitchen is not the best idea. What do you guys think? How have you found your space to work from home?
I'm in the kitchen right now.
Do you have little kids or kids?
My kids are all grown up, but I used to do college from at home, and God, I had to hide myself in the bathroom. I mean, not bathroom, in the bedroom and lock the door. So otherwise they'd come to play.
Okay. Thank you, Marcia. I see you have to drop off. Thank you so much for contributing. So some of us are lucky to have a home office. How about others? I know one of my coworkers, she says she always has at least 3 water bottles by her desk. She always has some snacks or nuts, just so when she gets hungry, she doesn't have to kind of go away. She can just snack here. I've heard some people saying, oh, they just work through lunch. And some people saying, I don't really work through lunch. This is my sacred hour that, I'm kind of going away. So I don't have to be like work 9 hours a day. I have some breather in between. So they always have lunch between 11:30 and 12. So one of the attendees said, I have a home office and teaching the kids. It is my space until I open the door. So that's pretty good. So I had an office, but now with 2 working from home, I had to move to the front room. So that's another thing, how do you find, because now the kids have to have a space, so they do their homework and they do their own stuff, and you probably don't want to have 2 or 3 of them in one space, otherwise they start fighting. So are they in their own bedrooms, but there are the toys, so how do you motivate them to do their work and not kind of getting distracted and playing? And then your spouse is working, you are working from home, so how do you find that balance? So my wife works from home anyway, so she owns the office. I'm just glad I was able to build my own office in the basement. It's so funny. I did hear from a lot of people, especially men. I don't know what's up with that. I think the ladies don't want to be in the basement, but that they do have their own office in the basement. That's actually where my husband is too.
That's where I'm at. Is I have an office in the basement and a door shut. But once in a while, my kids will come open the door, wave to me, and shut it. so.
Okay, I love this one. I had an office area at home and I use my ironing board as the laptop space. That's very creative. That's pretty cool. And there is no balance, just adaptation. So true. Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about finding your space at home? So I have a question. How do you guys balance, like cooking dinners? Now you can't go to the restaurant. Yes, you can order some food, but if you are really doing the social distancing, you probably are, cooking at home more. So trying to find time to cook, time to clean, time to work, time to volunteer, and then oversee your kids to make sure they don't fight, they do their homework, they participate in the computer. Do you guys have a magical solution to do all of it? No, man. I was hoping this team, will tell me how do you guys do it all? Okay, it looks like there is no magical answer to that. Yep, I wish that too. Trying to not stress too much about trying to balance it. I know everyone is in similar boat, but try not to feel so pressured. Okay, it looks like some of our attendees need to drop for another call. It's 2 minutes to 9. You are able to claim your PDUs just logging to pmi.org. You do not have to be a member of Western Michigan PMI. You are still able to claim this as your PDU. And I would say it is more technical because we were talking about, more of the technical stuff. But if you guys disagree, let me know. If not, you will be able to do that. There is not a code to claim the PDU. On our Western Michigan PMI, there is actually a drop-down that tells you the instructions, how to earn your PDUs and how to submit the event. So you're just putting it as an event, and when the event happened, what is the title of the event, and then you just say, I want to claim 1 PDU. So it is one PDU. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.